they pulled out one of their plants. Yes. Hi guys, and welcome back to the Herd Wave, or welcome if you're new around here. So this week's video, it's been a long process, put it that way. It's finally finished. And as you can see, they are all in there. So put it this way, these guys have been through the ringer. Let's to put it bluntly, they've been on a journey and a half. Now this all started before Christmas. I have touched on this in previous videos that I did originally want a tank for this area for my Rainbow Tropheus. Now I had a smaller group of those and I wanted to have them in the house. I didn't want them to put them in the fish room. I wanted them to be in the house because I wanted them to be one of my display tanks. So I did decide that I was gonna put it in the house, and I decided that this is where I was gonna go. Now I had somebody who custom makes all of the tanks for my house. I had somebody working on that, but unfortunately he hurt himself. How did he hurt himself again? Did he fall off his skateboard? He did something silly, put it that way. He ended up breaking his arm, so he couldn't make the tank anymore. It was a little bit disappointing because I'd had these fish, they'd all passed their quarantine, and they were ready to go in their big boy tank. They were ready for it. But obviously things didn't go according to plan. So, skipping forward, I then decided to change one of my quarantine tanks in the fish room and change that into their tank. Like I showed you in the fish room tour, that is where they are right now. And to say the least, they did get the better end of the deal. They went in there because I decided I wanted to get some red Rainbow Tropheus. Now I've been trying to get my hands on these for quite a while, because they are absolutely stunning fish, which I'm sure you'll all agree. If you're big Tropheus fans, then you will know that these are pretty good. I decided to get some of those, and I managed to get my hands on two groups of them. It was two from two separate people, but I managed to integrate them in together once they'd both passed their quarantine, which was great. So I put them in the tank. Now I'll insert some footage here. This is the original footage that I had of the previous tank. Now this was the 5-foot tank. So this behind me, this is the new tank. It's got quite a lot of work that I need to do to it before it's going to be ready, but this is just the start of it. So I would say at a guess it's probably nigh on 250 gallon. I haven't exactly measured it. I just measured the length of it, so I knew that it was going to fit in this corner because this is where I wanted it. I'm going to sort it out, going to decorate it, and it is going to be the perfect little home for the Rainbow Tropheus. So I actually have two groups of Rainbow Tropheus right now. The first lot, they are quite a size. I would say they're probably about 2 inches, so they are colouring up really nicely. So I've got those, and then I do have another group of them, which I'd maybe say they're 1 inch to 1.5 inches. They are in two separate tanks at the moment. They're at slightly different stages. The first lot were obviously out of quarantine first, and then the second lot is a little bit behind that. But the two groups I am going to integrate. But I needed a big enough tank to do that because I wanted a large group of red Rainbow Tropheus as a display tank in my house. So this isn't going to be in the fish room. This is actually in my house. So basically this is going to be like a perfect place for them to breed as well. It's going to be a species only tank, and the way that Tropheus breed, this is actually a perfect environment for them because Tropheus just kind of spit. That sounds really wrong. So as long as you have a species only tank, and I don't just mean Tropheus as a whole, I'd mean species only as in Rainbow Tropheus, specific subspecies, they're actually really good parents. So just when they're young already, they just spit them out and they just grow like that. So this is going to be pretty perfect for this large group to not only grow but hopefully to reproduce and breed for me in there. If they don't, it's not a big deal. It's not something that I was looking to do anyway, but it's always nice if your fish decide to breed. I suppose it's one of the key points of making you feel like they are so happy in their environment, which I think is a bonus. I think it's every fish keeper's ambition to have their fish be the happiest they can possibly be, and what other way for them to show that is to breed. So very excited about this. This is obviously the first step to it, so here we go. So because I had these two groups and I really needed somewhere for them to go, I was impatient and I didn't want to wait for his arm to heal, which is silly, I know, lesson learned. I decided to go with someone else who had another tank. Not going to call out any names, not going to call out any companies' names. That's not what I'm about. I'm not about hating on people. That's not what the purpose of this video is. Put it this way, it was a poorly made tank. We can say that for sure, for reasons that you will see. I will show you later on. The guy who actually makes the tanks, he came in and he helped bring this one in for me with another couple of guys, and I showed him the tank and what it looked like, and I obviously knew what had happened. I'd spoke to him about what had happened, and he straight away said this is a very poorly put together tank. So lesson learned, don't be impatient. When you get a good thing, stick with it, because it can go disastrously wrong if you get impatient. But anyway, it's happened now. Nothing I can do about it. I can just tell the story about what actually happened. So yeah, this was a 5-foot tank and I had it behind me, and I will show some of the original footage so you can actually see the process. Of what I'm talking about and see how it all started and how it all ended. So I'll put some of that footage in. Because I think it's important to actually tell the story about what happened. And that things is not always as straightforward as some people like to make out, especially on YouTube, when people say I've put this tank together and this is what I've done and this is amazing and it took me only a day to do. And yeah, take it all with a pinch of salt, because it doesn't really go down like that. Things happen. They're just not showing you what happens. They're not showing you the bad, they're just showing you all of the good bits. And let's face it, sometimes things go wrong, and it's how you deal with it. That's the main thing, how you cope with it. And it's a learning curve. It's all about learning. Nobody gets everything right first time. Nobody's an expert at everything they do immediately. You have to learn, you have to grow, and you have to progress. And I just wanted to get that across, and I wanted to make this video basically to show you that just because people say this is my new tank and this is, isn't it wonderful and isn't it brilliant, and all of that stuff that you do tend to see, you're not seeing all the work that goes into putting these tanks together, and you're not seeing what actually goes wrong sometimes. So let's just be real. Like I said, not going to hide from it, not going to pretend that it didn't happen, because it did. So my suggestion would be to grab a cup of tea or a cup of coffee, whatever floats your boat, and it's story time, people. Need to have a sip of tea, calm myself down. I'm very emotional about this. Poo fish. Sugared well. Anyway, this is a 5-foot tank like what I've explained, and it was in the corner behind me. Put it together, tested it out, did all of the standard things where you set your aquarium up and yeah, you make sure your tank doesn't have any cracks in it, making sure your filter is working correctly, all of the basic stuff that you need to do when you set up a tank. What filter did I have on it? I'm trying to remember now. Yes, it was the I just had an internal filter. It was quite a large one, but I had that on for the main time. It was one that I'd had previously in the fish room, so it was already a cycled tank, so I didn't have to worry about any new tank syndrome or any of that sort of stuff. It was all cycled and ready to go, which is one of the bonuses when you have multiple tanks, is that you don't have to worry about stuff like that really. Long story short, yeah, I would have added a separate filtration system, probably an external, something along those lines. I don't think I would have done a sump with that one. I don't know. I'm not entirely sure. I'm not entirely sure what I was going to do with that, but that was just the first step anyway to it. So set it up, filter was working, everything was fine, perfect. 2 days, very nice, very nice. Substrate in, a few decorations in there, you know, make it look pretty as you do, all that aesthetic thing. Did all that, and then I popped the fish in. And it did good for 2 days. It did good. No issues, nothing like that. No signs of any leaks, not even any condensation really that would suggest any sort of worrying. There was nothing to indicate that something was going to go wrong with it. All of these telltale signs that you can sometimes pick up on when you're examining your tanks, when you clean your tanks, whether you're doing the inside or the out. And with it being in my house, it was obviously getting cleaned around it. Things were happening around it, so there was people around it. It wasn't like that it was just in the fish room where sometimes things go wrong and you're perhaps not there overnight. Put it this way, it was a well-viewed tank, so if anything was to go wrong, it would have shown. And believe me, there was nothing to indicate that anything was wrong, and there was nothing that I could have done to prevent it, really. So what happened? We were just sitting, enjoying the afternoon, and when I say the tank exploded, it exploded. The whole front of it popped off. Yeah, there was no way of describing what happened. It was just like a massive and the whole of the front of the tank popped off. Now as it popped off, it hit the unit underneath and it's cracked in half. So I don't know whether anybody's ever broken a tank outside or tried to smash a tank up to dispose of it, but when you smash a tank, it breaks up into tiny little pieces. It's like, it makes it safe when it breaks, basically. It's called shatter-proof glass. So yeah, this didn't happen. The whole thing popped off, hit the deck, cracked in half, so it's in 2 pieces, and all of the water just came gushing out of it, and the water was out within probably about 5 seconds. Didn't take long for the water to be out, and with that, so did all of the substrate, and so did all of the fish. And lucky enough, I have oak flooring, and the best way to describe it is these is really old houses, so underneath it's not cement, it's sort of, there's a lot of foundation, and it can only be described as like a little crawl, well, it's quite a big crawl space. It's quite deep. It's like a bit of a bunker underneath my house. So the house dates back to pre-World War II, so in cases of raids and things like that, you did have somewhere that you could hide. So underneath here there's a lot of foundation. It's a big crawl space, so the water literally went in seconds through the wood. It just disappeared. I didn't have a flood at all. I did, however, have lots of substrate all over the floor and lots of fish. Now I'll show you the floor actually, because it still hasn't been repaired. Now moving the furniture around to try and catch all these fish, my floor is scratched to hell. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. It is scratched to hell. It definitely needs varnishing again. I just haven't gotten around to doing that. Sorry. It's not a home DIY channel, you know, my floor's scratched. My fish is alright, but my floor's scratched. Yeah, so it was a case of, it was complete and utter chaos. It was like adrenaline kicked in. I was screaming at first. Then it was like, what am I gonna do here? You know, when you're in that sort of situation, you don't know how you would react, I suppose. Everybody was fine, so nobody was hurt, which was the main thing. I was sitting holding the dog at the time, and she literally jumped out of her skin, and I was holding her in the air. She was barking and wiggling and trying to get down, not to get to the fish or anything like that, just because she was scared and she wanted to run away. So she had to go straight in that cage. It was a case of, where do I start? So it was, get a bucket and start picking the fish up off the floor. That was what happened. Now obviously to do this we had to move the furniture around, hence why the floor scratched to pieces, because of the coral was all over the floor, so that was getting scratched. People were standing on it, and I tell you what, all of the fish survived. Believe it or not, all of them survived. We caught every one of those fish. We even went in the kitchen. They kind of went that far. The water went that far, and they went in the kitchen as well. So we were literally picking them up out of 2 rooms. So yeah, that's what happened. Yeah. So once we'd gathered all of these fish, I don't even know how they all managed to survive, to tell you the truth, but we didn't find any at a later date anywhere that had snuck past us. They were all happy, they were all well. None of them even came out with any sort of disease, stress related or anything like that, which is it's actually a miracle that happened. But no, all perfectly fine. They did lose their colour, I must admit, for quite a few weeks, but that could be said because of one, all the trauma that had happened, plus they had to be moved into a smaller tank. They were in the tank that I showed you in the fish room tour, so that's where they had to temporarily live until I could get another tank sorted out. So that's basically what happened. It was a disaster. Never experienced anything like that. Obviously tanks have cracked before and leaked, and I've done repair jobs on it, and I've even done like a major repair job on one of them, but I've never seen anything to the extent of this. This wasn't just a user error or anything like that. This was a poorly constructed tank, and it was a disaster waiting to happen, basically. And it did happen. It happened to me. So my front toes is freaking out. So like I say, I'm not gonna disclose the name of the company that I got it from. That's the person that I got it from. This is not what this is about. It's just basically about a lesson learned. Sometimes you have to pay a little bit more money for things that are gonna withhold and withstand the test of time, especially when you're dealing with larger volumes of water. You know, you can take all of the correct precautions, you can make sure everything is stable, make sure everything is flat, there's nothing underneath it to create any sort of cracks. So you don't even need the floor to be level, as long as the surface that the actual tank is on is level and all 4 pressure points are stabilized. As long as the weight of the tank and the volume of water is distributed evenly across whichever surface you have it on, you're good to go. This wasn't about that. This wasn't a user error or anything like that. This was a damn right faulty tank, poorly constructed. I was speaking to my friend about it, what had actually happened. This is a very nice lady. She's her name's Miles and she is Norwegian. So my friend, her husband actually keeps aquariums, he breeds fish and he also shows fish. So he has 2 tanks exactly like this, and in this tank behind me was actually a show quality Oscar. So it's just the one fish in there. He had lots of space to move around. Obviously she knows that I keep fish and that I breed fish, and she knows what I do on YouTube as well. She knows that I make videos for you guys and share tips and tricks on the aquarium hobby, how to keep your fish happy and healthy, all that stuff. She knows that I do all that, and she stepped in and she saved the day basically. She gifted me this tank, which is absolutely unbelievable. This tank is amazing. It really is. I got them to go in a larger scale tank, a 4 foot, a 5 foot, something like that. Got them for that, not to be put in a smaller tank, because some of the fish that are in the fish room, it's just a temporary setup. They do either move on to larger tanks or they do get passed on to other people, so it's not a case of they're always going to be in there. The grow out tanks, most of them, or the fry ones are, or unless I've got the like me display tank, things like that. So these fish weren't specifically got for breeding. Obviously if they did breed, that's a bonus, then I can share them with lots of people. It'd be absolutely brilliant, I would love that, but that wasn't my intention of why I got them. I wanted them to enjoy them and enjoy their beauty, which I do with all of my fish, to be fair, but some of them are, of course, I do enjoy breeding them as well. So these fish were specifically bought to be in a display tank in my home. So I'm very, very grateful that she stepped in and she helped me out the way she did. She's a very lovely lady. And this is an absolutely amazing tank. I mean, it's not even about how much it cost. It was the fact that she stepped in and she saved these fish basically, because they were going to be in a smaller tank, too small for what they were supposed to be in, and these fish deserve a lot more than that. It's something that I could only have ever dreamt of, to be honest. It's just amazing. You can tell the difference in the quality of the tank, how it's made. It's like even to an untrained eye, you can see the difference between a tank like this and the previous tank that I had. So it is pretty special. The thickness of it, thickness of the glass and everything like that, and the framework and the actual cabinet, it's made from the best way to describe it is like kitchen cabinets. That's how it's, the type of wood that it's made from. So it is really strong, it's really sturdy, but it does look very nice as well, I must say. It looks very nice in my sitting room. It does have the cabinet underneath it, which the front panel just pops out. Same as the old tank, the front panel, yeah, there's a little divide and you can just pop that out and you can put a sump in there. So you could put either a 3-foot sump in it or you could put a 4-foot sump in it. That's what he did originally have in there. She did actually give me the sump as well. which is it's a really nice sump as well, but I decided not to use that, and I just went with a recycled FX6 filtration. So that is something that I can do in the future if I wanted to. I could put a sump in there because it does have the weir as well at the back, which is, you'll probably notice, you can see in the back the water level is slightly lower, and that's because of the weir and because of the connection to the sump underneath. So it has to be slightly lower, otherwise it would overflow. Obviously there isn't a sump underneath there to catch it. Yes, I haven't completely took leave of my senses and not realised that water's evaporated, or I haven't topped it up properly. No, I'm fully aware that it is like that, and that's the reason why it's like that. Yeah, so for now it doesn't have a sump in it, but obviously that is something that I might possibly change in the future. You never know, might make a video on adding the sump on, we shall see. That option obviously is there if I wanted to do that, so you never know, we might make a video on that in the future, adding the sump to this tank behind me, we never know. Okay, so I know this video has been a long time coming. It's been pre-Christmas, but it's finally here, and I'm so pleased that I got to share it. Even after everything that's happened, I still wanted to put it out. I still wanted to share what had happened. It's always a journey, isn't it? It's like every tank that you set up, everything that happens within your tanks, it's always a little journey. And I enjoy sharing it with you guys. So I hope that you enjoyed this. So as always, if you want to show support for this channel, please don't forget to subscribe. You can click a notification bell and it'll let you know every time I upload a video. So with that being said, don't forget to like, thumbs up, all that jazz, and I will catch you on my next one. Bye!